What's up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Charm City Heavyweights Podcast, brought to you by Great 8 Sports Memorabilia in Parkville, Maryland. I'm the host, Matt Trigger. With me, as always, is my co-host, Josh Merrill. Josh, what is going on?
Coming live from the man cave. Adley Ruxman went crazy today.
Yes, he
We got a
did.
special
Yes.
show tonight, too. I'm excited for tonight.
Yes, we do. We have a special guest, former Baltimore Ravens tight end, Daniel Wilcox is joining the show tonight.
There he is.
What's going on, Daniel? How you doing, man?
I'm great, fellas. I'm great, man. Thank you guys for having me on. I really, truly appreciate it, man. I always love coming on your show, Matt. You guys do a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate the love. Daniel, thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule. We're just going to talk a little bit of NFL, a little bit of Ravens. Got Mr. Lamar Jackson making quite the headlines in the last couple of weeks. We're about 2 weeks into the free agency period in the NFL. Get talking about that, man. How's everything going with you these days?
How's everything going with me? Everything's good, man. I'm just being a dad, down here in Atlanta, Georgia. 2 sons. Tristan will be 18 in June and Julian will be 13 in May. And I'm just trying to figure out a way, man, to keep these 2 young men, headed in the right direction and keep doing great things. And they're both killing it in school right now, straight A's and B's. Tristan is killing it on a baseball field. He just killed it in football. Last semester he threw the game-winning touchdown to win the region in football. He's the backup quarterback, but got in and threw a 65-yard bomb at the end of the game to win the game. And then they just won the region in baseball 2 days ago. And Julian is killing it in music, man. He's playing the freaking tuba in the band, and he's also playing the piano. He's like little Mozart on the freaking piano. It's crazy. And he's also playing the drums as well. So we'll see what happens with that, and hopefully I can get him involved with some golf or something this year.
That's amazing, man. What's it like with the kids, with one being elbow deep in sports and the other being a musically inclined young man?
It's kind of cool, man. I feel like it attacks every spectrum of who you are as a dad, right? When I was a kid, I played the violin. Don't tell nobody that, Matt, Josh. I'll keep that between us. All right, I played the violin. My mom, for some reason, wanted me to play a string instrument, and she had me playing the violin. And I got as far as learning how to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star pretty good. And I was like, I'm out. I can't do this no more. But I love music, man. I was a team DJ in Baltimore, so I used to pick all the playlists and all the songs when you hear on game day for games and all that stuff. All that stuff was my stuff,
Wow.
So I used to give it up to our guy, Larry Rosen, up in the booth up top. They used to manage the entire stadium in Baltimore. So, everything from the field night, air the night, all the way on was me.
That's awesome, man. Hey, that's pretty cool. I didn't know you guys had like team selected DJs, amongst the roster. I know you guys got to, get loose and keep it loose somehow, but that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool though.
There's a thing that kind of happens, like you come into a space and people just kind of feel your vibe. Me being from Atlanta, we hip hop capital of the world at the time. We was really booming with music. Everybody coming out from Atlanta, Jeezy, Outkast, everybody, Usher. We got a ton of guys, musicians here that blew up and made it big. And I used to play all the hot stuff all the time in the locker room. So guys like, man, Wilcox, we want you to do this. And Ray was like, hey, he used to ask me about his intro song. Remember we changed it from Hot in Here for a minute to the Roy Jones song?
Mm-hmm.
And then we changed it back to the Hot in Here song. I said, boy, you got to go back to the Hot in Here song. The Roy Jones song is hot. Y'all must have forgot. Can't be stopped, can't be touched. That song was hot, but it's something about that Scooby sound. We say, and then he just kill it, man. You love it, man. So we had to go back to the Nelly Hot in Here, and I just felt like it was the perfect fit for him and the dance that he does, pregame and all that. So, and we wanted to play things that kept the defense hot, on third and short, third and long, that would get them pumped up and stuff like that. And all that stuff really matters, man. It really does.
I can imagine that's just a great camaraderie building type of situation. Daniel, I know that me and you have been friends for the better part of 2 years now. You were the second ever guest on the show. We stay in constant contact, just checking up and on each other and stuff like that. Josh is a big fan of yours, man. He's been waiting for this interview for the last couple of days. Josh, I know you got some questions, man. Go ahead and fire away before we get into some NFL news.
How you doing, Daniel? I was a big fan, man. You were one of my favorite players
Thanks, Josh.
in your years here. I only got a couple questions, man. The first one was uh, the year with McNair when we lost to the Colts.
Shit.
I hate to bring it up because I can remember a news interview with you where you were heartbroken and you were like, "I thought we were going to Miami." There's been a lot of heartbreaking Ravens losses, but to me,
Yeah.
that's the one that hurt the most, even
Yeah.
more than the AFC Championship with New England. What? And it made it worse, man, because our offense was so good that year, and we
Yeah.
held Peyton. What were they doing that held us up? What was happening? Because it was
I,
just off beat.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I just really feel like McNair just had a bad game that game. You know, he was so hot all season long. It's something about having that first round bye that just kind of throws off your rhythm and throws
Mm-hmm.
everything off. I think you started to overthink things too much. He might have started having flashbacks of the Super Bowl he lost in Tennessee. You know, it could have
Yeah.
been a number of things, man. But he was just really off that game. We never caught a rhythm on offense the entire
Mm-hmm.
game. You know, we all kind of felt a little bit, I guess, weird going into it, man. But our defense played so well. I mean, no touchdowns on either side of the ball. It was all field goals. We missed a field goal too early in the game. Stover never misses, and so once you start to get those, you're like, oh, here you go, and you start to have a little bit of doubt. Once the little bit of doubt sets in the NFL, man, it's like sharks circling blood in the water. They could feel it, they could smell it, they could see it, and they just kept pressing the gas, and we just could never catch back up. It just wasn't enough time on the clock for us to kind of get back into that game. And it was a game of field goals. And, they hit more field goals than we did. I think we ended up losing by 6, and we missed 2 field goals that game. That it
Yep.
would have been a tie game at that point,
Yep.
and it was one of those games where you came in and we felt like they had a really super good quarterback, and we felt like we had a really super good quarterback. And the entire time I was in Baltimore, all we felt like we needed was a QB. That's all we was missing the entire time. We never paid a QB to come in to really stand up and just be great for us and give them the kind of money that we needed to give them in order to be on top. Our defense have always been the foundation of that organization. And for the first time, I felt like we had an offense to complement them. And we got to that game. We had that first round bye, and then we came off that bye and rolled into that game, and we just was so flat. We just wasn't hot at all. And I don't know what got into McNair's head, but whatever it was, it just wasn't. It wasn't good. He didn't play his best game. He had been hot all year long and juiced up all year long, and that game for some reason nothing just clicked.
Yeah, and everything that year went our way like it does for the team that, gets to the Super Bowl and ultimately wins it. But I'll never forget the first play of that game where the first play on offense, it was like a 20-yard pass to Heap over the middle, and he just dropped it, which Heap never did. And it almost like you had that feeling like, oh, shit.
It was a couple of those, Josh. If you remember,
Yeah.
I mean, throughout that game, it was a couple of those moments. You was like, what's going on? Like you grabbing your head, like that never happens,
Never.
Even the game we lost against Pittsburgh, the last game of my career in 08-09, that game against Pittsburgh, AFC Championship. Same thing. Willis McGahee, he gets knocked out that game. It's like, what? All year long, like that never happened. And you get to that game, and you sitting there watching one of your best friends and your teammates, man, unconscious on the field. It's a scary thought. But that game was just such a weird game. Stover never missed kicks. Never missed kicks. Heaps never dropped balls. It was such a weird game, man.
It just wasn't going our way. It almost is like when the Ravens lost to the Titans 14-2 year. It was like the same feel. I think Andrews dropped a 20, like the same kind of pass over the middle.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like in you were in Tampa, you won a ring in Tampa, right?
Yes, sir.
What was it like being around guys like Warren Sapp, John Lynch? There was a lot of stars on that team, man.
Yeah, that team, that I've played on some very unique teams, man, like some great defenses, and my defenses have always been strong. And for some reason, I think I was an offensive player, but I had a defensive mindset because I always played an aggressive style of offense, right? So every team I've been on, like my best friends have always been on the defensive side of the balls. The guys that kind of be attracted to me more are always usually defensive guys. When I got to Tampa, Derek Brooks took me underneath his wings right away. Shelton Quarles became a really, really good friend of mine. And I went to his house multiple times for dinner and stuff like that. Corey Ivy, the DB that played with me in Baltimore as well. Me and him played on that same team together. Corey was one of my best friends still to this day. He actually just texted me today to I love cars. But we both kind of got an affinity for cars, I think. But
Corey's a great guy.
I love CI, man. CI is a really good friend of mine.
He was on the show not long ago.
Good. But Warren Sapp, I didn't have the best relationship in the world with him. I wish it could have been a better situation. When I first came into Tampa, I remember sitting down in the meeting room. I think it was the very first day. And he walked into the meeting room, and he was basically my chair. I'm the guy that don't have a chair because the meeting room in Tampa, we had we had double wide trailers for our offices. We didn't have this nice, beautiful, fancy facility that they have right now. We literally had trailers like we was in a trailer park. So our office space was real small and cramped. So we would be in the coach's office watching film. We didn't have meeting rooms. We would actually go to the coach's office to watch film. So we had like 5 or 6 tight ends. I'm the new guy in, so I just got a chair right beside coach's desk, right by the door. Sapp walks in and say, "Who's the new guy?" And I look up and it's Warren Sapp, and I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" Sapp is Wilcox. I'm Wilcox. And then he ain't shake my hand. And it rubbed me the wrong way instantly. And I was like, what? And I had just came from New York with the Jets, where Mo Lewis, played, linebacker, and you had Sean Ellis and John Abraham and Sam Coward and Marvin Jones. You know what I'm saying? Like it was Aaron Glenn, like great nostalgic players that had been around for a while, and they embraced me. All of them embraced me, even Curtis Martin and all those guys. So coming from there with those superstars in New York, which the media capital of the world, they way bigger than anybody from Tampa at that time, because New York is New York. You get down to Tampa, you got Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks and Simeon Rice and Alstott and Lynch and all those guys, and you blown away by the talent that they have. But when I got down there, man, Sapp just rubbed me the wrong way. But Derek Brooks, I was a huge fan of his, man. Loved him to death. He made me a Derek Brooks fan when I got down there, and I just, I was always a Florida State fan and a University of Miami fan. So, when you see Sapp and you see Brooks, you felt like you was in the right place at the right time, man. And I mean, that defense to me is arguably one of the top 5 defenses in the entire history of the NFL. The Tampa Bay defense, man, it was unbelievable. And then you go to Baltimore after that. Like, how lucky am I? You go to Baltimore, you got Suggs and Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Jonathan Ogden. You playing with Jamal Lewis. You got so many greats there, man, and just it was such a phenomenal experience both places. Chris McAllister in Baltimore, and you had Brian Kelly in Tampa. Rondé Barber and Samari Rolle in Baltimore. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was such a phenomenal thing, man. I just played against great talent everywhere I went, and just being on that team with them, it showed me early in my career, like what it takes to go win the Super Bowl and what it takes to be great. And when I got to Baltimore, it had the exact same mindset that Tampa had. Tampa was going to smash every time you try to run the ball. They was going to hit you right in your mouth. They was going to talk crap. They was going to be in your face. They was going to be there, let you know that they was there every single play. When I got to Baltimore, it was the exact same attitude, same mindset. Knew we had a shot. We just got to get the right pieces in place to get there.
I wanted to ask you, I know Josh has got some questions. I want to ask him about Tampa Bay. You mentioned all those guys that you played with.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Alstott. That dude was a different breed of running back.
And then Michael Pittman right with him. He
was
a different breed too. And then Thomas Jones came the next year. So you had 3 big backs.
What was it like watching Alstott run against that defensive practice?
Well, in practice is always how can we be safe to save each other? We're not playing against each other the way we play against other teams, but it was really cool to see him run the ball in games, boy. I'm talking about dropping the hammer on people, like a grown man making other grown men look like little boys. Like, it was unbelievable. Like, I don't know how he could run as reckless as he did and able to still talk, walk, and move today. I mean, he ran like a straight savage, man. Alstott was he always reminded me of Russell Crowe from the movie Gladiator.
Oh, okay, that's a good comparison.
When I watch him, when I watch Alstott, when I saw that movie Russell Crowe, it instantly put me in the mind frame of Mike Alstott. And I was like, every time he ran the ball, I looked up in the stands. You feel like, are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's Mike Alstott, bro. Like, he ran through everybody and anything. He didn't care. He just ran with so much reckless abandonment that it was a pleasure to see and a pleasure to watch.
and he just ran towards the contact. He didn't shy away from anything. It was
Yeah,
just
he's a monster,
crazy.
man.
If
He
he
was
had
a
the
monster.
opportunity to hit the open field or create his own running lane, he was creating it, and it was
He
just
did.
I just wanted to ask you, man, because you went from blocking for Allstott to
Yeah,
blocking for Jamal Lewis,
it's crazy.
which is like there's no really much of there's really not much of a fall off. I know all sides of a middle linebacker playing running back, but Jamal was
Yeah,
no small dude himself.
he wasn't. I
No.
used to say all the time, I'm 6'2". I think I was 225 when I got in the league, like 6'2", 6'2 and a half, 225. And I was like, both of the running backs I'm blocking for are bigger than me. Like, why am I blocking for them? Like Jamal was a freaking a boulder. Him and Allstar kind of got the same type frames where they just kind of short and really, really wide. Like you could tell they built to do one thing and one thing only, and that was to play football. Their body types are just they massive guys. Like my shoulder frame is here. They shoulder frame is like a foot outside of me on both sides. Like that's how broad their shoulders are. And I mean, they was juggernauts. Jamal had a big head. Mike Allstar had like a normal size head. You didn't think he would do what he do, but Jamal head was bigger than Jamal head was like two sizes of Mike Allstar's, and he was a juggernaut, man. But Jamal ran so much faster and so much more explosive and so much more twitchier than Mike too. Mike was able to put his foot in the ground and change direction pretty good, but he wasn't a 4.3 type caliber guy. Jamal was a legit 4.3, low 4.4 type guy that could just run through anybody. He was that strong and powerful, you know.
I
He was a
remember watching
throwback,
him in
man.
training camp, man. I remember being like 12 years old watching him in training camp and how explosive he was. It was just like,
Yeah.
it's like
And
you
he
guys
never
are
wore gloves.
gladiators, man.
All he did was the finger tape. He never wore gloves.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy, right? I think we do that because we want to feel the ball. We want to be able to feel the ball. In his position, he has to be able to feel the ball. And Mike did that a lot too. Allstar did the same thing. He put a lot of fingertip tape on his hands too. He barely wore gloves too. They both kind of ran the ball the same way. And Jamal was just so explosive, man. He was just so explosive. Mike was probably a 4.5, 4.6 guy. Jamal was a legit 4.3, 4.4 guy. It was a big difference in quickness and twitchiness between the two of them.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Daniel, I got a question. What was it like for going from Brian Billick to John Harbaugh? What was the biggest difference? Was he accepted right away? Did he have something to prove?
It was a big difference. I had just came from Germany. I had Pete Kahartnicek. He was kind of like a Bear Bryant type coach, and we practiced in full pads every day the entire time I was over there. And this is supposed to be the place you go to try to make the team when you get back. But, he was just that type of coach. He wasn't trying to toughen us up. He wasn't trying to do any of that. He just how he felt like we supposed to practice every day in full pads. And when I got to Baltimore, they used to call it Camp Billick, right? And you hear people say, oh, it's Camp Billick. He's too soft on the players. I never really agreed with that at all. To me, I think there's a big difference between a coach that has not played the game and the coach that has played the game. When you got a coach that played the game, he understands what your body is going through. So he kind of knows when to push you and when to back off. And I felt like that was Billick. We was always full speed. I don't never remember having a practice with him. We wasn't full speed. Even our walkthroughs was full speed. I know because Terrell Suggs scratched me 100 times in walkthrough. Like T Silver for real, bro. Like put gloves on or something, bro. Your nails are too long. But we never had a slow day at practice with Billy. And everything we did was full speed. But he knew when to back off. He knew when to tell us to take the pass off, what days we was gonna have shells. He had an alternate day for special teams, so we didn't do special teams every single day in training camp, doing 2 days and 3 days and stuff like that. And when Harbaugh came in, it was like a little kid, man, with a Sony PlayStation, and he get a chance to play with all his characters for real. And he just got, we in full pass every day. We just gonna beat each other. We got to get tougher. Like we're the Baltimore Ravens, dude. We like the toughest team in the league besides the Pittsburgh
Steelers. That doesn't
Steelers.
make any sense.
Yeah, it was so crazy. Like, we were all looking at each other like, bro, like back off. Like, what are you doing? But it's, when you get a coach that haven't played in the league, I don't think he really truly understands the punishment that our body goes through. And we needed a break, and that's why we had that moment. We had a moment in training camp where we kind of bucked the whole system with Harbaugh that his first year. I don't know if y'all ever heard about it or not, but the players kind of stood up in the meeting. It was like, hey man, we need a break. It was like your Chris McAllisters, your Ed Reeds, your Troy Smiths, all of us was like, bro, everybody, like, and I remember Harbaugh getting in front of the room and was like, does everybody feel that way? Y'all just couldn't wait. I was going to give you a break, but we had been in full pads like 7-8 days in a row. It was like, bro, like what are we doing? Like, and it's tour days back then. It wasn't one a day practices like it is now. It was tour
Yeah.
days. We're in full
Real
pads
training
twice a
camp.
day. Yeah, like what I'm saying, like 8-9 days straight, and everybody looking like, I mean, the training camp looked like a freaking you just came from Kuwait. And somebody just dropped a damn grenade on us or something. I mean, you go in the training room, it's like, guys laying all on the table, laid out. It's 50, 60 guys in the training room with 100 and some players on the team every day. There's no room for you to sit down in the training room. There's nowhere for you to stand and wait in line. It felt like you was trying to get into the Cheesecake Factory on a Friday night. It was that thick in there, man. It was crazy.
That is wild. And it's crazy. And the thing is, it's accurate when there's different players from different eras of the hardball regime that have come on our show.
And said the same exact thing.
It's the same exact thing, different year. And it's like now he's 15 years in, and it's like the last couple of years, I think we had 41 players on the injured reserve. So it's like, I know some of the injuries happen in the games and stuff like that, but eventually you just got to realize that you guys are putting yourselves through hell 8-9 months out of the year. Like you got to, dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you can't put your body through the punishment that we go through. We're literally getting in car accidents every day. Like when you really feel like I've only felt this type of soreness from when I got hit by a car going 80 miles per hour. And they hit me so hard that my whole body got thrown into the wall and the glass. And I've only felt that kind of soreness other than what we feel from a day-to-day basis when we hit full pads. That's the only time I felt that type of soreness, and it takes 4, 5, 6, 7 days for it to go away. And I was explaining this to somebody. It was like, what's the difference from your rookie year to your last year? And I was telling him like recovery time. Like I used to be able to recover like from a game, by Wednesday, I'm full speed. I don't got no soreness at all. I feel like I'm 100%. My last season, year 9, shit, I was going into the next game trying to figure out where the soreness was going to go. I was just compounding soreness on soreness on soreness on soreness. And that last year, with hardball, I had just came off the major foot injury and I was on crutches all season that year prior, all season, that off season. My first day of practice was the last week of training camp with hardball. And I started all 16 games, every playoff game that year, played every single game. I played in every last one of those games coming right off a major foot injury or foot surgery. I ended up tearing my bicep, I ended up tearing my labrum, and I ended up partially tearing my hamstring that year. And I played through everything. I got these 2 injuries in the weight room.
Yeah.
In the weight room. And he came in with the mindset that we're going to be tougher in December, stronger than everyone else in December. So we actually lift heavy through the season, and you never lift heavy through the season. Your body can't take it. It's too beat up. You got your muscles are too torn. They getting ripped to shreds every day. And I think it was such a weird change. If you look at that year, the 2008 season, look at who was hurt. Guys that was never hurt, right? It was like Kelly Gregg got hurt in his career.
Mm-hmm.
Chris McAllister got hurt in his career. It was like 5 key guys, like major guys. I was one of those guys. It was like another 3 or 4 guys that was never ever injured like that, and they end up not being Ravens the next year. That was like they was out, So I think we had I've always thought our defense was like the most gangsteriest, toughest defense in the entire league. So if anything, you needed to come in and try to whip the offense in shape. I can give you that. But you can't come in and say that we needed to get tougher on defense with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Suggs and Double J and Haloti Nada. And you know what I'm saying? Like we was stacked, man. Like we was so freaking stacked on defense. It was scary, So I mean, I don't know what that was about, but him coming in. One thing I've learned as being a coach since I retired, because I've coached for probably 8 or 9 years, it's easier to come in hard like an asshole and then let up versus coming in nice and then trying to be an asshole later. They'll run over you, So I understood back then. I couldn't really get it, but I understand after being a coach, like going in as a coach to come in hard is a must. I got to come in. I got to set the tone. I got to let them know I'm not taking no bullshit from nobody. I'm keeping them straight. I got to keep them straight in there on a straight line and make sure when I say something, they jump, they listen to me. It's my team, not theirs. I get it. So I kind of felt like that's what he was doing, at first. And I when I went back up there, the last couple of times, he was different, but he had this whole Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type thing going on his first year. I I couldn't get a beat on it. I was an older guy, 30 and up club, so it just mentally in my mind, it took me all the way back to being a second year guy in the league with John Gruden and how he treated us and how he talked to us. And I couldn't, that was pretty much a part of the reason why I retired. The next team that tried to pick me up was the Giants, and I had to go to Coughlin. I was like, I don't want to go to Coughlin after dealing with this mess. So I'm like, I'm good. I'm good.
I wanted to ask you, man, you were here through Kyle Bowler and Anthony Wright was your quarterback for a while. And
Cordell Stewart, Troy
Cordell.
Smith.
Mhm.
Yep.
Was Joe Flacco the hardest throwing quarterback you ever had?
I think the hardest thrower was Steve McNair, hands down.
Really?
Like
Really?
Steve had every single spectrum of throw that you could possibly have. He had a touch throw, he had a laser, he had a deep ball, he had touch on it. He could make it a heavy ball if he needed to make it a heavy ball. He was probably the most talented thrower I had been around. And Troy Smith had a rocket launcher too, man, until he got sick. But Flacco had such a dynamic arm where he made every throw look easy, right?
That's
Yeah.
what we noticed on television. Just like that Mile High Miracle throw he threw in Denver in January, it looked like he put a little umph into it, and it sailed 65 yards in the air. Like,
Well,
Joe,
it's a little easier to throw it in Denver than it is in other places because of the altitude and stuff like that. The wind, all that stuff is a factor. If everything catches just right, it'll take the ball another 10 yards in Denver easily. But Flacco had a strong arm. He definitely had a tough arm. But I think if I had to really say who had the strongest arm out of everybody I played with, Kyle Bowler had a rocket launcher too. He could sling it. I mean, he could throw it. I mean, every quarterback there had a strong arm. I think the softest arm I played with the whole time I was in Baltimore. Shoot, A. Wright had a gun too, but he could, he had touch on his too. He had a pretty ball.
We just had him on a couple weeks ago.
he's a cool dude,
He's
man.
a good dude.
Yeah, I like A. Wright.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Anthony Wright, man. He was one of my favorite guys on the team. Anthony Wright used to yell in the locker room before every game. It was so funny. It was something like off a movie. And they used to pump him up every time. He would be screaming like, "They're in our house, in our backyard, talking crap. Who they think they are?" And it would be funny as crap, man. Every home game. Every home game is so funny. And what they talking about, A. Wright? They would be messing with A. Wright. That joke used to be so funny, man. I love Anthony Wright. Great character, great guy.
He's a really
he
good
was
dude.
really nice.
We enjoyed having him on, man.
Good.
Wilcox, speaking of Kyle Bowler, man, was this team ever behind him, or was there a time where you guys were like, nah, he's not going to be the dude?
Why, Josh? Why you want to bring that up right now?
Because, I feel like he ruined Todd Heap's career. I got anger towards him. And I did love him. I had a bad experience with him as a child as well. It sounds bad the way I just said that, but he wouldn't sign something for me. He was an asshole about it. Which I do have your autograph, sir. You were friendly. I got a ball over there.
Josh. Appreciate you, brother.
And Will Dem said, "Kyle, stop being a dick." I'll never forget it. But
straight up.
Now,
was the team ever behind him? Like I know he had a few hot stretches. I was at that Monday night Green Bay game where he went off and they benched Brett Favre. But did you guys realize he wasn't it at any point?
I mean, you as a player, you've been around a lot of quarterbacks, especially me because I played receiver my whole life. So when a guy got that egg factor or not. And I could understand why Kyle was a first round pick because he had a really explosive arm. And and he could run. The kid could really run. He could flat out fly. He probably legit high 4.5 guy. Straight line. He could move. But Kyle was a guy that didn't have no pocket presence. That's what I remember most about Kyle. And I felt when I say that, I felt like when the pressure came, he didn't feel it. He would get hit like some of the nastiest hits you see a quarterback take in the backfield, sit in the pocket. And it's like, bro, you got to feel that and step up in the pocket or get away from that or duck. Have that Russell Wilson factor, just kind of glance a little bit and you take off running, But he was fast enough to get away from guys, but just wasn't, keen enough to be able to pick up to feel that pressure, and I think that's what he was missing. Like he had all the intangibles to be a great quarterback. He had decent height. had a really, really explosive arm. He could make every single throw on the field. Had a nice touch on the ball. They could throw the deep ball very well. He just had no pocket presence. He was never able to escape pressure. He would always take sack after sack after sack. And I think I want to say with them, it was probably 1 year where probably my first year in Baltimore, my first or second year in Baltimore, I kind of felt like, all right, man, we ain't going a different direction, but we had guys. We remember we had Cordell Stewart at one point. Cordell had came in and kind of gave him a spell, all that type of stuff, man. And when Steve McNair came in, like, year 3, I thought we really was about to be, on point. But I say by my second year there, I knew we needed to make a change at that spot. And ultimately that's what got Billick fired, just kind of holding on to Cal Bowler so long. And, it was my first round pick quarterback. I'm a believer in him. I'm gonna stand by him. And the defense was so frustrated because they had been in that situation already, with Dilger and all those guys prior, so they was like, we want somebody to give us some, to get some points on the boards. Like I can remember Ray Lewis, them telling me before the game, like, Wilcox, all y'all got to do is score 3 touchdowns. Nobody will never lose a game. He said, we never going to give up 3 touchdowns on defense, and we may spot y'all 1 touchdown, every game. And that's pretty much was true, consistent, man. Like, they never gave up a 100-yard rusher. They spot. I mean, they would spot you a touchdown every other game, if not every game. Like every other one, they would get a touchdown. Sometimes they would get 2, and then if we get lucky, we might return one on special teams too. Block punt or block field goal or something, and take it to the house too. So I mean, we had so many opportunities, man, with that team to be in Super Bowl situations so many times, man. But I just, Cal Bowler
say it all the time.
Yeah, Cal Bowler he wasn't even a good clock manager. Just not turn the ball over. He would just make stupid decisions sometimes and just put you in bad situations. Now, I feel bad for him because quarterback is one of those positions where everything goes like so fast. It's 100 miles per hour. You got to call the play. You got to line guys up. You got to shift guys, motion guys over, make sure they're in the right place, understand where everybody going to be at on the field. You got to do all this within freaking 10 seconds most of the time, like a split second. You got to figure it out. You got to figure out what coverage the defense is in, where they're going to rotate to. Can't let them trick you. You got to be on top of everything. You got to see the whole field at all times. You got to have a great peripheral. And I just felt like he was never able to get it, like he would. And sometimes he would just, he would snap, the ball would snap. He wouldn't be ready for the snap. The ball would go over his head, or he'll drop the ball when he get ready to put it up the pass, or he'll get ready to throw the ball will fall out of his hand, or the ball to get tipped when he throw it and to get a pick. It just be so many things, man, could go wrong back there at that QB spot, man. I just felt like it's all confidence, because at one point, he was probably one of the best quarterbacks in the world. And then he get to Baltimore, and this one thing I can speak for Kyle, if he's out there.
He got thrown into the fire. He was a rookie.
He was. And this is one thing I can speak to him on his defense, because I had to deal with the same thing he had to deal with. I was in Baltimore for 5 years. I had 5 different offensive coordinators. Think about that. He has to learn a new offense every single season.
That's fair.
And from a new OC. Fair. And no comfortability back there with a quarterback coach or nothing. Every year you got a new quarterback coach. You learn a new system, new OC, new temperament, new reads, new everything every single year. And it sucked. I never was able to get comfortable with our offense because it changed every single year.
Yeah.
That's something that the fans forget, because we've had something on the contrary the last 4 years where Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator. So the offense didn't change, which is what we grew frustrated with to varying degrees, depending on who you talk to.
The offense didn't develop. That was the problem.
Yeah.
It was the same.
True.
It was the same offense every single year, and it never developed into anything else. It was never anything that made you be like, wow, that's a dope play. It was the same plays over and over and over and over and over again.
Now I want to ask
and that's what's his story at other places. He'd be hot for a year or 2 and then it dies off.
Yeah,
San Francisco and Buffalo.
Yeah, people figure you out. You can't run the same thing over. I mean, it's a copycat league. Once one team figure you out, oh, we got him. Let's go. The only thing that he had that was saving his butt was Lamar Jackson. You ask me.
Yeah, we do agree with that. I wanted to ask you though. Josh and I have been doing this show for a while, and Josh has NFL Plus. He does the all 22 film watching. I let him do it because Daniel, I'm gonna be honest with you. I watched film at every football season of my life for like 10 years,
Yeah,
and whether I was a player or coach, so it gets
gotcha.
very dreary after a while. You know that more than
Yeah,
most.
it drains. Yep.
Um, we are untrained NFL, like we're not even trained NFL players. We're just fans that are looking at film. How frustrating is it as a former player to see the juvenile route concepts he had our wide receivers and in this offense year after year, where he's running to guys that are literally spaced 4 to 5 yards apart, and they're all running different depth curl routes or comeback routes, or it just like
Mm.
it seemed like all the routes were very one track minded, and there wasn't any route combos, there wasn't any intricate like rub routes. He wasn't doing any of
Mhm.
that. What was it like as a former pass catcher to see that stuff week after week?
Boring. I mean, it's boring. It's like anything else you do in life, man. You do the same thing every single day. Eventually, you be like, man, it's boring. It's like being married to a woman that only likes sex in one position. You
Yeah.
know, it gets
Yeah.
boring after a while.
Yeah.
You looking for that excitement, right? So, I think like there's only 10 routes in the route tree. So if you ever studied the route tree from when you was a kid in park ball, these are our 10 routes. It's 0 through 9, right? 9
Mm-hmm.
route is always a go route. 8 route is a post. 7 is a corner. 6 is a curl. 5 is a deep out. 4 is a I don't know. 6 is a dig. 4 is a curl. 3 is a speed out, quick out. Fast out like 5 or 6 yards area like that. 2 is a slant. 1 is a hitch. 0 is a now route. One step
Right.
turn, give me the ball right now. So those are your route trees. All those routes convert, into different routes at some point. And then when you see certain coaches, they give the slant return route, and then the running backs got the swing routes, and then you got the check, and you got option routes off everything. But even your option routes is usually like a 5 yard out or 5 yard in or a hitch, so you got to sit down or you run away versus man, or whatever it may be, or find a zone spot and sit down in it, and everything is a variation off of that. So it gets more and more creative, with every single coach. Like I remember the first time I ever ran the deep over at tight end and then peeled it back off was like when I was in the NFL Europe. I had never ever seen that route. I was like, oh, this is dope. It was so dope. You run like you run that like when they call boot plays or waggle plays. When the quarterback gives the play action and then he spins, he rolls out
Right.
and then rolls to the other side. And usually you got either a running back in the flat, a tight end coming over the cross of the field, and then you got a deep post behind it or over top of it where you can hit one of those 2 or 3 guys. On that over route by the tight end, it was the first time I had ran that over route at 10 to 12, and then I got a chance to come back to the other side, and the quarterback puts his foot in the ground and throw it back across the field. And you saw it in the playoffs. Somebody ran in the playoffs this year. I want to say it might have been the Super Bowl game. Somebody ran
Wow.
it. I think Kansas City ran it. They ran it in the playoffs, and Kelsey was wide open for that play. I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen that since Germany. But when you get those plays, you get excited, man. It makes you happy. You get really, really excited as a player because the routes are so generic. You're always constantly looking for those opportunities to be able to run plays that separate you from the other stuff that's actually going on out there from a day-to-day basis, because you do absolutely get bored, with those same generic routes that you've been running since you was in park ball. So the great OCs, the Andy Reeds and the guys that you see out here that they're in the playoffs every year, when you got like your Peyton Mannings, your Tom Brady's, they get to come up with great creative stuff because they've been doing this stuff forever. They've seen wrinkles of all this stuff, the return routes, the sluggo routes, everything got an abbreviation of it. You can run a dig and go. You can run a 10-yard
Right.
out and up, so everything got a play off of it. So you just want to do different things. They started putting in the outs with the ups and then the comebacks and stuff now, so you seeing that, everything has a variation of it, man. It just makes the game that much funner for the receivers and the QBs.
Now I remember the two wide receivers that made that out and up famous was Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Never,
them dudes were masters of the double move.
man, I'm telling you, man, when you get those type of things, it really makes your job that much easier. It makes it a fun game. Like they used to call it Zorro route for me. A Zorro route was like a shallow cross by a tight end while we're running across the field, which is basically an inside slant, inside two route. I take one step up the field, I may give him an outside head fake and then run across the field as fast as I can. The Zorro gives me an option in the middle of the field to either sit down, stutter like I'm gonna go back and then run away, or sit down, stutter like I'm gonna go the same direction and then run backwards. And then the quarterback gonna get it to me right away. So it's like a three-way option for me. When you give me that instead of shallow cross every single time, it makes me excited, man. It makes me want to go out and run harder and play better and be excited because I know I'm gonna get that ball if I kill this guy.
Exactly.
I love the fact that you just broke it down. Like we don't get a lot of guys talking X's and O's on here, so that just got me a little pumped up, man. But this is I know Josh and I both are curious. You played with the team for 5 years. You played under the Ozzie Newsome era.
Yes.
There's never been, at least in my experience as a fan for the last almost 30 years of the Ravens, there's never been this much dirty laundry being aired out, and there's never been an uglier contract dispute. What are your thoughts on the Lamar Jackson saga so far?
I don't like it, man. I'm always going to be for the players because I'm a former player. I would like to see us, not be taken advantage of. And I really just feel like this whole situation, man, because Lamar didn't have an agent, he got taken advantage of in this situation. And this is why I'm saying what I'm saying right now, Matt, Josh. I felt like after year 2, his contract should have been negotiated. After the MVP year, they should have negotiated this contract. Instead of them doing it, they ran it like a business. They ran it just like it was business because his agent wasn't in their ear. Like, hey, we need to come on. He was a unanimous MVP, first time in the history of the NFL. All right, you got the most explosive, most dynamic quarterback in the entire league. We can't be playing underneath that rookie contract. I can't allow my guy to get hurt. Lamar was loyal to the Baltimore Ravens, and he didn't fight that issue at all because he didn't have an agent fighting for him at that moment. Like a Drew Rosenhaus would have been on the Ravens as soon as that MVP hit, as soon as he got put out to play. Hey, we got to get on this right now. And this is the reason. This is the only thing that make me feel like he need an agent. This is the only thing. It's a good old boy system. Everybody is friends. All those agents are friends with all those GMs and all those team owners and all those presidents and all those guys, right? They've been dealing with these guys for years. They've grown relationships with all those guys. Lamar don't have a relationship with nobody but the people in Baltimore Raven organization. He don't have a relationship with nobody else. So he don't have nobody out there that got that friendship that they can reach out and say, hey, Joe, hey, man, my boy's over here killing it. I need you to look out. You owe me a favor from 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, he don't have nobody in his corner doing that. He has to do that himself. He don't have those relationships. Life is all about who you know and how you know them. That's the only reason I feel like, all right, he needs somebody in his corner. Otherwise, he should have just went and got an entertainment attorney that understands contracts, and he should have had them sit down in the room and represent him so he don't have to be there to hear that mess, and he could decipher back and forth with him, and then it won't be so much bad blood. But if I got to sit down with you and you telling me why you don't want to pay me, and I'm telling you why I think I should be paid, and then we going back and forth, it's like a husband and a wife arguing about what's best for the kids. It's like I don't agree with you. You don't agree with me. We got to agree to disagree. Like, no, I don't want to agree to disagree. Pay me, give me what I want or I'm out, and you don't want to be putting no type of ultimatum in any situation as a man, and I think that's his biggest issue with that whole thing. But I do not like the way, it seems like it's Lamar against the Ravens and the Ravens against Lamar and how things are being leaked out and nobody's saying exactly what it is. I really hate that because it makes Lamar look a certain way and he has to deal with that. And then it makes the Ravens look a certain way, but none of them really have to deal with it because they're the Baltimore Ravens.
Right. Now I want to ask you this. I know that you're a former player, obviously, and I know that the NFL Players Association looks out for the best interest of the players. Do you think Lamar has fallen victim to being a pawn in a grand scheme of securing guaranteed contracts for everybody? That this is an early ploy and he just happens to be the fall guy?
I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of felt like that could be going on, Matt. I have no idea. I honestly don't know. I've never had to deal with the NFLPA when it came to my contracts. Never, ever.
Right.
So I don't even know how that feels. I've never even heard them talk to me about what I just got or what I was supposed to get. Nobody never contacted me ever. So I don't know how that plays out or how that works. That's something I'm oblivious on, but I can tell you this. When I first heard that Lamar, was standing his ground on the contract thing and he wanted the Ravens to pay him, close to what Deshaun Watson got or whatever, I was like, good for you, Lamar. Like, good for you, bro. I said, not only is he doing this for him, but he's doing this for all the rest of the quarterbacks that come behind him too. So that was my first impression. What am I trying to say right now? Josh, help me. That was my first perception, right? Perception of what was going on. I was like, good for you, Lamar. Stand your ground, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, they ain't got no choice. They got to pay you, but I guess they really don't in the big scheme of things. He could stand his ground and hold out like everybody else. And, I just don't know how you have a quarterback as dynamic as him and he's in this situation right now. My thing is, people are looking at it like he's trying to get paid right now. But like Josh Allen, them all got like $75 million more than he did the last 5 years. So they owe him, as far as I'm concerned. They owe him back pay. So if he want 150 guaranteed, you owe him another 75 on top of that anyway, because you didn't pay him when you were supposed to pay him in the first place. So it's just, in my mind, it's like you got the man for less than 25 mil over the last 5 years. That ain't fair. To have a quarterback that's over 75% winning percentage in this league, and this league that we're in right now, that's not fair. And then people are always trying to come up with reason why you shouldn't pay him. He runs the ball too much. He's the best running quarterback in the whole league. Who cares? All right, he can't throw the ball. Yeah, but he threw for 45 touchdowns. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, it don't even add up. Like the people he was hurt the last 2 years. He had a sprained ankle and a sprained knee. He didn't have no surgeries, nothing major at all. What are you griping about? What are you complaining about? Nobody plays through a high ankle sprain. Patrick Mahomes played through a low ankle sprain, not a high.
Yeah, a high ankle sprain is pretty much a fracture.
It's like a broken leg. Yeah, right. Like people don't understand that if they've never had it, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, I I had a high ankle sprain my junior year, and I missed 6 games.
Yeah,
the doctor told me I would miss 2 to 3.
They told me I would have been better off breaking it when I got mine. You'd been better off fracturing breaking it.
I had a hairline fracture from my instep up to my shin, and that's what they call a high ankle sprain.
Wow.
And I tried the first day I tried going out there planting on it. I'm like, yeah, this ain't gonna be possible. And I was 16.
16 years old.
Right. So
crazy. But people don't get that though, Matt. Like if they haven't had it, they don't understand it. They don't understand how hard it is to play through a fractured rib if they've never had a fractured rib. You can't laugh, you can't cough, you can't breathe hard, you can't do nothing with a fractured rib. But we go out there and play through it every single week. It's crazy. People don't get it though.
Yeah. Another facet of all this, does it bother you how active he is on
Twitter,
social media, people responding to people that don't necessarily matter?
Yes and no.
Yeah, he needs to stop, man.
Yes and no. It was one time he responded during the season last year to something that was going on. And I actually DM'd him and I was like, Lamar, bro, like, stop reading this mess. Stop listening to this mess. Get off social media. Don't reply to none of these people. Like, you're wasting your time. You're responding to people that don't have a freaking clue what you're going through. Everybody's an internet thug. Yeah. They so gangster on the internet, but when they see you in person, they quiet as a mouse asking for an autograph. So I'm like, leave that mess alone, man. Don't even deal with that. Kids are gonna be kids, adults are gonna be adults, and people are gonna be jealous of you no matter what you do. If ain't nobody hating on you, you ain't doing something right. Right. And then I just feel like some of the stuff that he said was very professional, and some of the stuff he said makes him look extremely childish. And I just want him to just understand the difference in the two. He's a grown man, in a grown man's world, but you can't allow childish things to enter that field and allow you to look like you're something that you're not. And I think he's a very intelligent young man. I really do. I think he's more intelligent than most people give him credit for. I really do think he's a very sharp, smart individual. And I think people undermine that because he doesn't speak very eloquently. He doesn't get out there and enunciate every single word perfectly. And I think people look at him and be like, oh, yeah, he's from Florida or whatever. I think he's a very, very intelligent guy. Not just in the books because he went to Louisville and graduated early and all that type of stuff, but in the streets as well. He has a good sense of where he's supposed to be, what he should have, and what they should be trying to give him right now. and I don't think he's too far off from what they should be. I just think they need to meet somewhere in the middle and make it happy, make him happy and make it happen. And sometimes you got to come up with creative ways to get contracts done. And I don't know if either party is really up on that level right now to get it done that way.
Well,
Daniel, do you think it's repairable though? I mean, he's done said
No.
his goodbye.
No,
I think it's over. It's over.
I said it was over as soon as as soon as they low tendered him. As soon as they low tendered him and they put him on the low franchise tag, so him search, I said he's gone. He's gone. Like I said, I felt like it was already bad blood at that moment. Then it come to find out he asked for a freaking trade like a week prior to that, like 4 or 5 days prior to they actually put that news out.
I was going to lead into that. Do you think it was a calculated pettiness on his part to where he? I know it's a coincidental timing, but Lamar knew where everybody was over in Arizona a couple of days ago. Do you think it was coincidental pettiness that he releases the tweet saying goodbye to the fans and asking for a trade the minute Harbaugh sits down at the press conference for the owners' meetings? Do you think that was a bit petty on his part, at least?
I don't know. I feel like if he had an agent, a lot of this stuff would have been out a long time ago. I feel like there's not enough coming from his side of things that's eloquently spoken for everybody to kind of comprehend where he stands and what he's asking for. Because I feel like his agent would have represented him by now, or if he had a publicist, the publicist would have put out that statement for him, right? And it's like they would have put it out, say, hey, this is where we stand, Lamar side of things. Like this is what we're looking for. We love Baltimore. We think Baltimore is the best place. We want to be a Raven to the end of our years playing in the NFL. We want to be here many years to come, but unfortunately, we haven't been able to come to grounds of agreement for the contract. Woo woo, et cetera, et cetera. And I think somehow that's what's missing. He has nobody to stand out there on the limelight or in the front screen. Maybe it should be his mom. I don't know. Or maybe he should have a different account that says Lamar Jackson's camp. And it goes out like that instead of it coming directly from Lamar, because you normally don't have to hear from players in this situation. So it makes everybody feel a certain kind of way when you do hear from a player in this situation. Normally it would be your agent, speaking up for you. And, it would be Drew Rosenhaus. Rosenhaus is speaking on Lamar Jackson's behalf, but now it's Lamar speaking on his behalf. And then it comes across feeling the way it kind of feels because it's normally such a very direct business type manner. And it's a business, it's a business. And when emotions get caught up in businesses, that's what makes everybody all emotional and crazy about the situation. Like people are mad at Lamar right now because he's trying to conduct business the way that he think it should be done, but it doesn't feel familiar to the fans. They just feel like it's a kid talking crap, and they don't understand that kid has been loyal to your team. He went out there and played last year when they couldn't get his contract done, and he was like, man, I'm gonna just play for it. Who the hell would do that? Like, I wouldn't do that. Not if I'm in his situation. I'm not going to risk injury, getting hurt to go out here to prove to you that I deserve the money that I'm asking you for. Like, I would just sit out and let you find you another quarterback for that year. And then, if you don't sign me, if you go through the first 3 or 4 or 5 games of Tyler Huntley and you're not happy with what you got, then you ain't got no choice but to pay me. And then I come in and I stunt on everybody because that's what I would do. Because now I'm paid. Now I got some sense of comfort. Now I know if I get hurt, my family's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay for years to come because you guaranteed me that I'm going to be okay. But you don't have, I had basically the last 5 years I played for you unprotected. People do not understand out here in this world that $25 million is only really $15 million after taxes. You're gonna lose $10 million of that $25 million. So he's only played for like 15, maybe 13 million the last 5 years. Think about that. It's your starting quarterback, league MVP. He only played for $13 million the last 4 or 5 years. And he out here putting his whole life at jeopardy because you ran your entire offense through him. 2 years of that, you didn't have no running backs. You're missing your starting left tackle for 2 of those years. He didn't have no receivers all 5 years. Let everybody say he had none at all, right? He out there, he don't have the stuff that every other quarterbacks have to be great, but he still was dynamic. He still was explosive. He's still the most scariest quarterback to line up against in the NFL. And every DC in the league is scratching their head when they got to play Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Thank God that their offense has been generic for the last 4 years. The first year was so explosive. People didn't know what to do with it. That next year, everybody game plan for it. Everybody had it down packed. The last 3 years, everybody was like, man, please take Lamar Jackson off the field. We good. And it's just you have to consider those things, man. But people don't consider those things. Like 25 mil after taxes is about 13.5. Okay. And that's not good. That's not good when everybody else has made 75, 80 mil and he's only made 25. Now give me what you owe me and give me what I'm going to get in the future, moving forward. I think that's what the biggest issue is and the biggest problem is. And people only think that he's being greedy for what he wants moving forward. But I think he's trying to get the money back that he didn't have, which is impossible to get back because the Ravens took advantage of a kid with no agent and let him play for 5 years underneath a rookie deal. And he was the most explosive player in the whole league.
It does seem like there's so many layers to it. Josh and I have said on the show, we're just tired of it. It seems like at this point, we just want a resolution.
That's what everybody feel. We all feel the same thing.
Tired,
everybody,
man.
Because at the end of the day,
it's a mockery of the whole team.
Right. Yeah. So
we've been one of the most solid franchises in the whole world for the last freaking 20-some years, right?
You're right.
You never had a peep out of the Baltimore Ravens. It's the most first-class organization I've ever played for. And I've always given props to Steve Bisciotti because he's the best owner I've ever played for, hands down. He was better than the Glaciers. He was better than Woody Johnson up in New York. And I love Woody to death. I think he's awesome. But Steve Bisciotti, first class, and his organization has been first class all the way down. This is the first time you've ever seen any signs of weakness here in Baltimore. First time.
Yeah.
Do you think that's because Ozzy's not steering the ship anymore?
Man, I love Ozzy to death, man. All of us as players love Ozzy to death. Ozzy, I feel like this kid got taken advantage of. That's what I feel. I'm just telling you straight up. I don't look at it no other way. There's no way he should have been your starting quarterback and the primary person in your offense, knowing that you didn't go get any big time receivers. Yeah, Mark Andrews balled out. Yeah, he's a dog. Yeah, you had Hayden Hurst. Yeah, you had Nick Boyle. And yeah, you went and got Dobbins, but you haven't loaded this guy up with big time receivers on the outside edge. And Hollywood Brown was a good receiver. Bateman's a great receiver. I love those guys. But you haven't went and got that big name guy to make people, hey, we got to double him out here too. Not just Lamar back in the backfield. Like you got to put somebody in there. They can't afford to put a spy on Lamar. You know what I'm saying? Like to get people off his back.
That's very true.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
That's a good point.
When you look at over in Cincy right now, they got 3 studs at receiver.
It's ridiculous.
You know what I'm saying? They got 3 studs at receiver, and they had Hayden Hurst. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Lamar, all he got is Mark Andrews, and then you got some young guys that you hoping gonna turn into some studs.
Daniel, we always laugh because it's like the Bengals and the Steelers just find great receivers all through the draft. The best receiver we've ever drafted was Torrey Smith, by far. Hollywood Brown's probably a close number 2, but we've just never been able. There's been so many failures, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It really is.
It is.
And I think the front office has kind of pigeonholed us too, because Josh and I have talked about this on previous shows, Daniel, and we've talked about it too, in texting each other. They have invested so much in the defense and the secondary in particular to combat the new age NFL passing, and then we put so much money into our offensive line.
Right.
Now you're faced with the possibility where you're either going to have to pay Lamar the 32 or you're going to have to trade him. But now I was listening to the radio earlier in cap, and that's not including the draft picks that we got to take on this year. We got 5 draft picks. So at what point we're a better team with Lamar than we are without. We know that. The winning percentage speaks for itself.
Right.
But $6 million isn't going to bring you a legitimate bona fide wide receiver in here. You're going to have to now start trading assets in the form of future draft picks and or a player or two on this roster that you don't really want to part with. So we're doing a disservice to him, even if we give him this long-term extension. We've got $180 million tied up in the secondary between 3 guys. You got a middle linebacker making $20 million a year on annual average. You got Ronnie Stanley making $25 a year. You got Marlon Humphrey making his money. Zeitler's making a lot of money. Moses is making a lot. So I'm naming all these guys that they deserve it. I'm not saying they need to give the money back because you can only do so much restructuring.
Right.
But you give Lamar a long-term extension. Hypothetically, you give him the 5 years, you give him 160, 200 million guaranteed. That's all well and good. But then you're looking around the other team and you see your starting free safeties making 14. Your starting CB1 is making 21. Your left tackle's making 25. You're going to have to cut bait somewhere, and it's going to weaken the team.
Right.
And the Ravens in 2023 are still building a team like it's 2005, where they're expecting the defense to be elite and having a good running game. And these teams are putting up 45, 50 points
a game.
This is
crazy.
The NFL is like the new age NBA where everything's fast paced, high scoring. They have policed the defense to the bare minimum. So investing so much money in it is a crazy concept when you need to give your quarterback weapons. Because I was talking on the show a couple of weeks ago, Josh, and you were in agreement with me. They could trade Lamar, get those $33 million off the books, Daniel, and then they're faced with the possibility where they can go get DeAndre Hopkins for the next quarterback, which is an absolutely insane concept. That you wouldn't do it for Lamar.
Well, I think I honestly think, and this is just me because I've been in Baltimore for a while, and I've actually been on the player personnel side in there too, up in the office. I sit up there with Ozzy and Eric and all those guys, and head of player personnel George Kokanis and Joel Ortiz. I've sit up there and watch how these guys work.
Wow.
We haven't made a lot of offseason transitions so far. Normally we jump all over the offseason. We hitting it hard, right? So my thing is, I think they're saving it for the draft. I think when we get to the draft, I think they're going to start making some major moves. They're going to have to figure out this whole Lamar thing. And I think they may make some moves. They may give up some draft picks to be able to get some guys that are already proven. To me, I don't think you take a chance on taking the kid out of the draft when you already got players that have already proved themselves in the NFL. You know what they can do. I would just trade some guys or some picks during the draft to go grab a couple guys off those other rosters to bring them over to, to Baltimore. Like you're talking about D Hopkins. I would trade for him in a heartbeat. You could have our first round pick, we'll take D Hop. Or our second round pick, we'll take D Hop or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it may take to grab him over, and then free up a little bit of space for you. Then you ain't got to worry about those draft picks or paying those guys those big salaries. You could just take that money and give it to Lamar too. So I mean, I don't know. I think there's some ways around it, but I think the Ravens got some tricks up their sleeves. I mean, Eric DeCosta is smart. He's not an idiot. It's the reason why they're being quiet and they're not saying as much stuff as they want to say right now.
And they almost feel it. It's like the calm before the storm. Something's going to happen.
Something big is about to happen.
It is. I know. I feel it too.
I don't know if it's going to get rid of Lamar, but I know how it feels to have a disgruntled player that's not happy with you, and you feel like he's been mistreated. And I feel bad for Lamar because he shouldn't have to feel that way at all. I mean, the kid is a star. He's a stud, man. And the Ravens gambled on him, and he wanted to be in Baltimore his whole career, I think. And I think he fell in love with the city of Baltimore, and the city of Baltimore fell in love with him. I love seeing him in purple and the black and purple, So I would hate to see him gone, man. And if there's anything they can do to kind of rectify it or fix it, I hope they can. I really honestly think it's too late. I think he's already checked out 100%. I think he's ready to go. And if he don't have no choice, he don't have a choice. But if he got a choice, I don't think he'll be back in Baltimore.
It does seem that way. And, now that I think that the Ravens are kind of doing a little bit of damage control, leaking things to the press. In the last 24 hours, we've been linked to DeAndre Hopkins again. And we hosted Odell Beckham Jr.
There was rumors that they made him an offer today, Matt. OBJ.
Odell? Yeah,
it's rumors. I don't know.
I heard something about he changed the amount of money he wants now or something. He wants more money or something.
We don't know. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, if you can convince Odell Beckham to come here, and you can guarantee him that Lamar's going to be the quarterback, I mean, that might go a little bit of ways in convincing Lamar to want to stay, but the damage is done already.
OBJ is not coming unless he knows exactly who the quarterback is. I would, if I'm him, there's no way I would go somewhere. I don't know who my quarterback's going to be. I would never do that as a receiver. And I tell all the guys I mentor coming out, all the college guys, they play receiver, they play tight end, they play running back. make sure your quarterback is dope as hell. Like he will extend your career for years and years. But if he's a bad QB, he will take years off your career. I'm talking about like chunks off your career, like 3 years at a time, every year. So I always tell guys to make sure that you go somewhere where the quarterback is amazing. You want a Tom Brady. You want a Drew Brees, you want an Aaron Rodgers, you want that caliber type quarterback if you want to be great in this league, because it's not, you're never going to get a chance to flourish. You're never going to get a chance to grow the way you're supposed to grow. You're never going to be the receiver or the running back or the tight end that you would be without that. That's why Mark Andrews is so great right now, because he has a quarterback that can get the ball to him and that trusts him to make plays for him.
Yeah.
It's definitely a tough situation. It's like we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't, because
we screwed this up 4 years ago, Matt.
Yeah.
We screwed this up 4 years ago.
He should have been right after Allen. That's true. I agree. He should have been right after Allen.
He should have been. And Josh has said it on the show, Daniel. If they would have just looked at the Josh Allen trade, the Josh Allen contract, and they would have just given him a little bit more,
he would have been happy. And it would have been before the Deshaun Watson. It would have been before all this mess of this stuff.
He'd have been locked down.
Yeah. It would have been before all the rest of this stuff. You don't have to deal with that.
And then he'd be eligible for another contract in 2 seasons.
Right. Absolutely.
And his age,
he could get another bite at the apple.
Yeah. It's so frustrating, because for years we have wanted a solid quarterback to lead us, and we got one. We finally got one. Like, we can be honest about it. I loved Joe Flacco while he was here. The first 5 years of Joe Flacco's career, he was a dynamite. It seemed like after the Super Bowl and after he started popping out those kids, honestly, he became a 9-to-5 guy. And the thing is,
don't forget about 2014. Now, Joe had a hell of a year.
But that was with Kubiak. That was an anomaly in the 6 years after the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
that was a flash in the pan after the Super Bowl. Everything else,
kids do change you, though. I'm not going.
No.
You want to get home,
even to the everyday person. But what I'm saying is, we've sat through Kyle Bowler. We sat through,
say it again, Matt. Say it again, Matt.
Kyle Bowler. I usually put an expletive in there, but I'm not going.
Daniel had to go out there and play with him.
Right. Like we're
just watching on TV.
We saw Kyle Bowler shorten Todd Heap's Hall of Fame career.
Yeah, he did.
Todd Heap should be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he should be. I agree.
And Bowler likes to throw the ball anywhere but in the numbers, and it's like he was getting hung out to dry. All you guys were. It was like we couldn't avoid it. We sat through that. We sat through the Dilfer and Banks era, even though they got us a Super Bowl. That was a terrible time to be a Ravens fan if you wanted to see us score points.
The very first pass I caught as a Raven was in the game. Again, I think it was against Cleveland, and it was down the seam. The very first ball I caught, it was a deep ball down the seam, and I felt like he hung me out to dry on that. As soon as I caught it, DB put his helmet right on the ball, coughed the ball up, the whole 9 yards. I was like, God, I had to get back on that ball so quick, man. I'm glad we got it back. But the very first ball I caught, I was like, man, throw me away from the safety. You throw me to the safety, throw me away from the safety.
Yeah. And it's like we sat through all that. We sat through Gerback. We sat through Vinny Testaverde and Jim Harbaugh. We sat through all Stoney Case and Scott, like all these guys that were just had no business playing quarterback in the NFL, at least in the fans' eyes, man. And it's like, okay, you get Flacco going to 3 AFC championship games and a Super Bowl, his first 5. He wins it for us. Then you get mediocrity mixed with one good year. He gets hurt in Lamar's rookie year. And Lamar completely changes the entire dynamic of this team.
Remember, Harbaugh was on his way out. Everybody
Harbaugh, he saved Harbaugh's job.
He did.
Harbaugh.
I remember that.
If Joe Flacco doesn't get hurt, John Harbaugh is coaching somewhere else right now.
Yep,
probably.
You guys would have probably had the Sean McVay from the Rams. He'd have been here coaching in Baltimore if Lamar hadn't came around.
That's very
right.
true.
Look
That's
at
a good
Matt.
point.
Look at Matt's face.
Don't let me stand
Okay.
near too close to traffic right now. Holy
Okay.
shit!
You never know, man. You just never know. You know, this thing could have been totally different right now. You could have won 2 Super Bowls right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so now they took advantage of the fact that they had Lamar on the rookie deal.
Yeah.
He sets the league on fire, and it's like, okay, the offense was stagnant. We didn't provide him with the weapons. He got hurt. There's a lot to go around. He's still far from a polished quarterback in the traditional sense because he's not a traditional quarterback.
Mind you, he got hurt with no running backs. And he
Right.
had all third string linemen playing in all different positions. Nobody was playing in the right position they were supposed to play in. He had two tight ends that was healthy, and all his receivers were hurt. That's what he was playing with that year. Okay. And he got a sprain, he got a high ankle sprain, and everybody acting like he injury prone. Like, come on, man. The man was running for his life every freaking play. He have nobody, he have no help. Even freaking big boy 42, he was hurt. Patrick Ricard, he was out too.
Yeah.
You know, all the fullbacks, the running backs, the tight ends, the linemen, the receiver, everybody was hurt. The entire team. Hell, they fired the strength coach this year.
That is a whole fiasco, man.
It's crazy.
Judon lost his mind when we didn't fire him after the COVID situation where he got half the team sick.
Right.
And I know that they changed the coaching staff around this year. They put T. Martin at the quarterback coach. They brought
Great move.
They brought in Willie Taggart to be the running backs coach. So I think they're making improvements there. They just got to get this done. And the thing is, they dragged their feet so long, Daniel, that they missed out on any potential veteran quarterback they could have brought in to bridge the gap to the next guy.
I don't care who you brought in; it wasn't going to be the same team. I mean,
true.
I feel like they had the great dynamics that they had when they had 22 Mark Ingram here, and then the next year you get rid of him. It's like, how you get rid of him after the year he just had, you know? And it's like, I don't care if he was on his way down. Like he's the guy you keep in.
He ran for 1,000 yards and you're over 30 years old.
Yeah, and the dynamics of what he brought to the team, you know, the attitude, the whole trust thing, and had the whole world saying big trust. You know, like how can you remove a vital piece of that? You know, chemistry, and this whole league is about confidence and chemistry. Like, how could you take that away from this kid as a young quarterback and they vibing? Then Orlando Brown gone, then Hollywood Brown gone. Everything that the kid fell in love with is gone. Like Orlando Brown locker was right next to Lamar's. You know, they literally sat side by side. Hell, Orlando introduced me to him. Wow. You know, that's how I met Lamar through, because I've been knowing Orlando since he was 10, like 9-10 years old. I played with his dad. You know, you know, so it's like when I came in there, he was like, what's up, and then he introduced me to Lamar. They lockers were side by side. You know how close you get to the person that sit next to you in your locker? That person becomes a part of your family. You know, so when he left, then Hollywood leaves, and they was like this. Every time you saw Hollywood, you saw Lamar. Every time you saw Lamar, you saw Hollywood. You leaving vital pieces of this guy. You letting it go every year. You know, Mark Ingram, Hollywood, Orlando. You know, he wanted to play left tackle. Let the man play left tackle. Shit, I don't care. Let him play left tackle. That's what he want to play. You know, but it just, I don't know. For some reason, it's just them. The moves that we've made haven't been. I don't think it's been the best move over the last 3 or 4 years. I just think I mean, even the decision not to pay him after the MVP year, like that was, to me, all this could have been solved just by paying him then, and you wouldn't have had to pay him that. You could have gave him 130 guaranteed for 3 years then, and he would have been the happiest kid on earth.
Yeah,
you know,
true.
If you'd have paid him after the MVP year, but you didn't do it, you decided to let the kid play out a whole 5 years of this rookie deal when you know you was getting him dirt cheap, just because you was getting him dirt cheap. And you took advantage of the situation, you ask me. You know, he gets hurt the last 2 years, which is rightfully so, because everybody was hurt. You know, your left tackle kept coming back, you know, trying to get back too early, and guys coming back, the running back coming back too early, and guys are still getting hurt because y'all releasing them too early to play. It's crazy, man. Like, I just don't know what's going on right now. And it's not typical of the Ravens. We're not a desperate team. So when we start doing stuff that looks desperate to me, it looks weird to me. It don't feel right.
That's a perfect word. Me and Josh haven't really been able to define it, but desperate is the word, man. And we don't need to be at this point.
We never had to be. Never.
We were a playoff team last year, and things didn't go our way.
I mean, last year, think about this now, Matt. Just because you said that, it triggered that. Matt just triggered something for me. Okay. We lost 4 games in the beginning of last year's season because of the defense, not because of Lamar. Lamar won 4 games for you, 4 more games than you had in the beginning of the season. He won those 4 games. You was ahead in the fourth quarter, and the defense gave up, 10 points, 20 points, 30 points to lose games early in the season. Then they started rolling like the second half of the season, and then it was all about the defense. Because Lamar was out and everybody, everybody else started getting hurt. But the first half of that season, he would have won 4 more games for you than we actually had. It would have put us in a much better situation at the beginning of the year, this last year.
Daniel, what do you think the Ravens' reluctancy is? Like, what do you think they're afraid of? Why don't you think they'll meet his number? Because they don't have to, or because maybe his playoff record isn't good, or
it's a business. It's bad business to do what Lamar wants you to do right now. It's a business. The Ravens is playing it with no emotions. They're playing it like this is a business decision for us. If they've already the owners of this league, it's 32 owners. They've already sat down. They've already said what the heck was Cleveland thinking. They already slapped Cleveland on the back of their head. Like, what are you doing, bro? You can't pay nobody $230 million. I mean, you just screwed all of us. We have to reset this market. If we give Lamar $230 million and Deshaun Watson got $230 million, we screwed. Now we got to guarantee every quarterback 230 plus. They don't want to do that. Why would they want to do? That's a bad business move when that's $100 million that you don't get to take home every year.
Right.
That's $100 million more for the owner he gets to take home that he don't get to take home by giving you $100 million more than what he wants to. Right. That wasn't a good move by Cleveland. Cleveland screwed up the whole thing, and since they set that standard, now Lamar is trying to hold tight and hold strong to that, which he should. If he had an agent, that's what Drew Rosenhaus would probably be doing the same thing. He would have been trying to do it years ago instead of right now. He'd have been trying to do it 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Lamar should get $200 million right now. Let's go. And I want to guarantee the whole thing. So I really think they're pissed off that Cleveland did what they did. And the owners are trying to hold strong to not making a bad business move. And they think it would be a bad business move for all the other 31 teams if they was to pay Lamar this $230 right now, and they trying to do everything they can to prevent that from happening.
I mean, because it's already going on. Since Deshaun got his deal, Rodgers got paid and it wasn't fully guaranteed.
Right.
Kyler Murray, Russ Wilson, Geno, Carr, Daniel Jones, all these guys got paid, and the salaries kept on going down.
Right.
In terms of the annual salary per year. So they're trying to reset the market because, and the thing is, they're doing it now, but you don't know what Lamar's going to get paid. Joe Burrow is going to get paid a lot of money. And so is Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts. So they're going to reset it in an upward trajectory anyway. So if Lamar waits for all those guys and he plays on the tag, then we're sitting here having this conversation next year. Are the Ravens going to pay him $55 a year?
My only thing is, I don't think any of those quarterbacks you name mean as much to their team as Lamar means to Baltimore.
Correct.
So all the quarterbacks that's gotten paid, the Kyler Murrays, the Aaron Rodgers, none of those guys mean as much to their team as Lamar means to Baltimore. Like I literally 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I was like, this is the first time I watched Baltimore Ravens football and the offense is carrying the defense.
Right.
I ain't never seen that before.
It's weird.
Yeah, like the last 3-4 years, it's been like the Lamar Jackson show. Like you watch the Baltimore Ravens and watch the offense. You're not watching them see the defense no more. That means something. That stands for something. And I don't understand why, the fans of Baltimore don't feel the same way about it, because that's how I feel about it. When I watch it, I'm like, bro, I can't wait to see what this kid about to do this week.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, Daniel, most Joe Schmoes, can't fathom that kind of money. So to them, he's spoiled, and because most fans can't even understand that kind of. I can't even understand that kind of money.
Right.
And I think that's where the disconnect is. because it comes out like, spoiled athlete. But you're right. It's a dangerous sport. You're putting your life on the line. You could, something bad, really bad can happen.
Well, even at 100 mil, he gonna see roughly 60 mil of that.
Right.
And you have to see that. You have to be able to understand that as a person. And you got to say, okay, $100 million, what I would do for 100 million. People be like, what I do for $1 million versus 100.
Right.
Like, people will go crazy if they seen $1 million in their account,
Right.
But $100 million contract, he's going to see roughly about 60 million cash out of that, roughly.
Right.
He won't, the rest of that 40 mil will go to the IRS. He won't never even see that. He'll never get any of that stuff back,
Right.
So out of that 100, he's going to see 60. All right. The last 5 he's played for less than 25. All right. Out of that, he's probably seen 13.5 out of that. And there's still a lot of money for any just regular person. But what I try to always get people to understand is Lamar is not just any quarterback. He's a freaking star quarterback. Like he's a Deion Sanders quality type of guy where he can't go nowhere without people not noticing who he is. Right? So he's that guy that walk in anywhere. Oh my God, that's Lamar Jackson. Everybody gonna know. They're gonna want pictures. They're gonna want autographs. He can't live in any neighborhood, whether he's in Florida or whether he's in Baltimore. He can't just go rent an apartment that's a gated community apartment because people they're gonna break in just to see him. He has to have security. He has to have the type of people around him that's gonna make sure that he's protected. We don't want to see a Sean Taylor situation where Sean tried to live in a nice gated community, right? And they broke in and he ended up getting killed in his own home. You don't want that for your quarterback. You don't want that for this kid. And he has to make sure that he's protected. So even in Florida, he has to live in a different situation than he did when he grew up. Even here, he has to live in a different situation when he does when he grew up. He can't just go get on a regular charter, on a regular flight and go back and forth because he's going to get flooded with autographs walking through the airport. He can't move regular. All his expenses are way more than the average person. And you have to consider all that stuff. He got to pay for security. He got to pay for security guards. You got to pay for gated community. You got to pay for the right neighborhood. He got to be where the kids ain't gonna be knocking on his door and be like, oh my God, Lamar, give me an autograph. He got to get away from all that stuff. And you have to take all that into consideration. So even though he's getting paid more, everything costs more for him. Everything costs more for him. He can't just go to the grocery store. He's gonna have to order everything and it's gonna have to be delivered through a special delivery service. He can't just go to normal places like normal people and just hang out regular places like regular people. He's going to get swarmed everywhere he freaking goes, and it's going to be an issue. It's going to be a problem. And if he had an agent, he will also have more endorsement deals. So this money wouldn't probably mean as much for him, because somebody would be pushing endorsements for him. He'll probably have a huge Nike contract or a huge Adidas or a huge Cadillac or Land Rover or whatever deal by now. And he'd have probably made an extra $100 million off the field already. But I don't think he's getting any of that. He started his own clothing apparel and did that stuff on his own, I think. And, he's doing some other stuff that,
It was reported he missed almost 150 million projected in endorsements alone.
Yeah.
They were talking that he missed out on a lot just for the fact that he doesn't. I mean, he's done one commercial for Oakley. Yeah. Because he wore those shades. Because of the shades, and he wears those visors in the game. And then I think he did one commercial with Kevin Hart, and that was for the NFL draft, I think. But he hasn't been out there like that. And like you said, the lack of an agent is really just he's missing out on a lot. And it's really, I mean,
I wonder what he doesn't like about it. Is it the cut the agent gets? I mean, what is it?
I mean, I don't think none of us trust agents, to be honest with you. Like, you see all these guys, Terrell Owens got taken, you see all these guys get taken advantage of. And most of the time it starts with the agent. Even your financial guys usually come through your agent. So when you see guys get hit by their financial guys, most of the time their agent introduced them to them or they put them on or whatever it may be. So it's all connected, so none of us really trust them. And because agents are it goes right along with shady. Like, most of us don't want to deal with them at all. But that's why I said, if you don't get an agent, just hire an entertainment attorney to negotiate your contracts, or hire a publicist, to put you in a situation where you can still get your endorsements and do those type of things and be in front of the camera when you want to be in front of the camera, or whatever you want. You can. It's other ways of getting it, but usually the agency comes with everything. So he has to do that in order to show you his value, why he's getting 3% of your contract. And he get 3% of your overall. He don't get 3% after taxes. So he getting 3% of that. If you get 100 million, he getting 3% of that 100. He not getting 3% of that 60 that you get afterwards. right?
So he's taking that $3 million right off the top before
Absolutely.
you even see anything. It
So
makes
so they
and
so they that's why they
that's just the
got
contract.
right, and that's why they got to have like the agent got to have a way to prove why he deserved $3 million of a contract that's negotiated by pretty much the league. Those numbers are set by what everybody else makes. So it ain't rocket science to say Aaron Rodgers got, 250. I want 250. Deshaun Watson got 230. I want 230. It ain't hard. It ain't rocket science to say that, So he's going to get that just by sitting down with the guys, his buddies that he been knowing for the last 10, 15 years and be like, hey, Steve, come on, take care of my boy. You know what I'm saying? And do this for me. He gets paid. I get paid. We're all happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's how it is. Like, man, if I was an agent right now, and I'm sitting down with Steve Bisciotti and I'm talking to him and stuff like, Steve, come on, bro. My family trying to eat too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need you to take care of them, so I'm taking care of. And then I got some kickback for you. I got another deal I'm going to throw you. My next kid I get next year in the first round, I'm going to make sure he come your way. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a buddy system. It all works together. It's hand in hand. Like, these guys make friends with each other. And because I know you personally, I can pick up the phone and call you, and we can have a regular conversation. We can go out for coffee whenever we want to go out for coffee, drinks, whatever. And that's how it happens. You scratch my back, I scratch yours, But every agency comes with marketing firms. They come with people that's going to help you for your endorsements. They're going to come with publicists. So if stuff like this happens for Lamar, they telling him not to be on Twitter because the publicist is already handling it for you. We got you. They got a day-to-day guy, the guy that books your flights, that get your rental cars when you need them, that you want to go on a vacation. They set up your hotels. They do all that stuff for you. But they have to make themselves valuable for that 3%. Why they getting it? So that's the whole kick of it. You want a financial guy. You want to set up a trust for your family. You want to set up a 529. They help you with all that because they got guys in place for it. And everybody's getting a kickback of whatever they're getting a kickback from.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we get a amicable solution to this. Dan,
you changed my mind on a lot of stuff, Dan. You made me think
I've
about
been
it a
thinking
different
about
way.
a lot right now, man. And I want to thank you for coming on the show. Before we let you go, man, I know that you have, you're in the entrepreneurial spirit these days.
Mm-hmm.
What are you up to on the business side? Let everybody know what you got going on.
Well, I do back home here in Atlanta. I build custom houses and I do custom renovations, remodels, kitchens and bathrooms,
You do
basements,
good
whatever.
work.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, Jay. Thank you so much, man. My website is wilcoxcustoms.com. And then you go to IG is Wilcox Customs LLC on IG. And I also do the Believe in the Ravens podcast. Me and Bo Smoker. We've been doing it for 2 years now, going on year 3 this season. I hope Bo's doing good. I haven't talked to him in a while. I know he had some family stuff going on recently, but I'll call and check up on Bo soon. And then both of my sons, one's in music. He's doing his music thing. He's 12, 13, about to be 13 in May. My other son, he's 17, going on 18. We're going to hit the college tour thing this summer and be ripping and running all over the colleges, trying to get him seen by colleges, in baseball and football and stuff like that. We'll see how that turns out. Kid is balling his butt off. He got 6 home runs on the year already. I think he's batting somewhere around 450, somewhere around there right now. So hopefully he continues to play well. And then what else I got, man? I know I got something else. It never stops.
Your Airbnb business?
Oh yeah, my Airbnbs, man. That's Hank _ATL. I have an IG page on that too, Hank ATL on that. Well, we have luxury Airbnb rentals here, and I try to make them really, really nice. The one I got is called, the reason it's called Hank ATL is it's on Hank Aaron Drive here in Atlanta. And it's all themed by Hank Aaron. I themed everything through Hank Aaron. So I got books, I got a wall, I got accent walls and stuff all with Hank Aaron theme, plaques showing you all the 755 home runs he hit, stuff like that, man. But it's really, really nice luxury place. So whenever you guys come to Atlanta, you got a place to stay.
All right.
Thank you. I tagged you on Instagram, man, because the Braves are doing the Hank Aaron commemorative jerseys this year for their Friday night home games, I believe, where they got
excuse me,
where they got his one of his sayings stitched on the underneath of the brim and on the jersey. I tagged you on Instagram with it, but because they just released it yesterday. But it's you have great work with the home remodels and building. You did do a virtual walkthrough on the Aaron house. That's really cool, man. We do appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. We'll definitely
Yeah,
get you
thank
back
you,
on
man.
again.
Matt, Josh, man, thank y'all for having me on. I appreciate it.
And
Sure.
do you have a IG page for the podcast yet?
The podcast, we don't have an IG page. It's just on the Believe Network, and it's any podcast outlet out there it's on that podcast outlet, whether it's iTunes or whatever. It's on everything, but it's on the Believe Network, and it's Believe in the Ravens podcast, and Believe is BLEAV, Believe in the Ravens podcast.
Okay,
Nice.
There you go, folks. Josh, go ahead and take us home, man.
All right, Ravens fans, it's going to be all right. On the bright side, listen, Adley Rutschman went off today. He had the greatest day as a catcher behind the plate in history. He went nuts, hit a bomb. So the future's looking up for the Orioles.
Good stuff.
Yes.